Hey folks, so this has come up in a couple of different conversations I was having with people, and so did want to give an overview of the advanced data analysis tool in GPT-4, aka or what used to be known as code interpreter, in case people do want to use it. And it can be really useful. It's very compelling. Basically, it takes GPT-4 and connects it to a little Python computer, and that allows it to write Python scripts to perform tasks that you might want it to. And so as a result, you can do it pretty much anything in it that you could do with Python, anything from reading text off of a PDF to um, drawing diagrams of equations to really any number of things. And the reason why we don't cover it explicitly in the class is for the same reasons that we don't cover llama index, which is that it's a bit unreliable at this point, and it's not a matter of prompt engineering to get it to 100%. It just does make mistakes, and because of that, I still categorize it in the realm of more kind of pure experimentation for now. And as I said in the course, I think this will change a lot over the next 6 months. And so definitely worth coming back to, but it's close enough to a lot of folks' use cases that, and you might want to get started working with it now and learning what it's good and not good at so that later on you can implement it in a few months once it's kind of ready, so to speak. And you might find things that it is reliable for. So the first thing we need to make sure is, and this is on paid ChatGPT, unfortunately, you come up and hover over GPT-4 and you should see these options. So you have three options: plugins, advanced data analysis, and browse with Bing, and then default. If you don't see that there, then the way to turn it on is you go to the bottom left and you'll see your name or something here. I have my email address, and you click on this button, settings and beta, and then you come to where it says beta features. And we're going to look at the bottom here where it says advanced data analysis. And if yours is off, then you'll want to turn it on. Great. And then when you come and hover here, it should be checked there. And a feature here is that you can add files to what you're doing and then ask it to perform operations over the files. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a toy data set that I found on Kaggle. It's pretty random, includes things like income and is the person ill, and all the data is totally fake, but it doesn't really matter. So the first thing I'm going to try is to just copy the link to this and ask it to describe in this data set. I'm going to ask it to describe the data in the data set. I'm going to put in the URL, and it's going to tell me that it is not able to access the internet. Unfortunately, you can't access the internet and do code interpreter at the same time right now. And it won't, in fact, try and access the internet through Python. So what we're going to do next then is we'll go ahead and download the data set, which I already did, and we'll come here and we'll attach the file. And we're just not even going to unzip it first. And we're going to try and just give it literally the zip file that came out and see what it does. And so we're going to tell it to describe the data in this data set. And so what it's going to do now is reach out to the Python interpreter and then use Python in order to work on our file. And so they hide it, but we can also go ahead and look at it. So you see that are uploading the data set and then unzipping it and then extracting the files. And it finds the file and it lets us know that there's a file in there that's a CSV with the data set. And then it's going to keep working on it. And it's going to upload it into a pandas data frame and kind of spits out the first parts of the data. So the data set info and the head of the data. And it gives us the results of this. along with the first few rows. And if we look at this, we can see, okay, yeah, that looks right. That looks right. Great. So that's very interesting. And it's then going on to uh, describe, give me some options for ways that we could interact with the data. So I'd like to go data visualization. There's a let me do a data visualization of income as a function of gender over age. And there's a lot of plotting libraries in Python, like Plotly or Matplotlib or whatever you want. And that allows it to then create different kinds of visualizations. Now, another thing that's kind of interesting here is it's clear that they've fine-tuned GPT-4 for advanced data analysis different than the normal GPT-4 in that it is far more agentic. What do I mean by agentic? It prompts me for what it might do next and takes actions on its own several times before passing the baton back to me. So you see that what happens here gives me an idea for how to start. Let's start by creating a scatter plot. After that, we can explore more complex visualizations or aggregations. Would you like to proceed with this approach, or do you have a different visualization in mind? So they're assuming that I am not a data analyst necessarily. They're assuming that I may or may not know what to do next and kind of providing me with this suggestion, but then giving me the option to opt out. So I can say that is fine, and it should continue with what it suggested. And it's going to go ahead and represent the scatter plot. Cool. So it's represented as a scatter plot. It's represented all the data. Says that there's no correlation between age and income, and says there's no distinct separation between genders in terms of income, indicating that there might not be a significant income disparity between genders in the data set, at least not one that is apparent from a simple scatter plot visualization. So let's try this. Yeah, let's further refine this visualization by plotting the average income by gender for each age. This is why I want to warn about this tool, is because it's often inaccurate. And I know, for instance, that in fact there is a disparity in this is fake data, but the in this data set there is a disparity in income between the two genders over age. And I know this because I did a previous, see if I can get it to pop up, a previous analysis using this same tool. So in this plot here that I did earlier, you can clearly see that the income for men is higher on average than for women. And again, this is perhaps for some use cases, maybe this isn't an issue, but if I'm relying on this tool, and the only way that I know whether it's right is if I know the calculation in advance, then the amount of use cases that I can actually rely on this for are relatively small. Let's give it a chance and see if in this separate chat thread we can get it to understand its mistake. But this is the kind of thing that I want to warn you about, is that the use cases here are constrained to expert tools or people that can rigorously go back and check the calculations being made and verify them. Because if someone doesn't know the data in advance, then they don't know whether that's right or wrong. They're just going to come away and say like, oh, well, that must be correct. And so here we look at the to look at the data and do the average. And amazingly, it says that they still seem to have fairly similar average income when clearly there is a full $10,000 a year difference roughly between the two genders. And it got it right in the other thread. Now, I'm not throwing rocks at this or cherry picking it or ragging on it or saying that it's never going to be good enough. I'm just saying that today it's pretty experimental and it's wonderful, and there's a level of system architecture and fine tuning and retrieval, et cetera, where for specific constrained use cases, you might be able to get it good enough to use this natural language to quantitative interface. But there's a bit of a trade-off where at the point you're constraining it enough that it gets good enough, you might be better off just surfacing a drop-down menu to your users or using Tableau or something that's like actually natively quantitative. The other thing the other thing you might need to look for is it doesn't always know your context. So if you say, let's clean the income data before re-analyzing, giving me some ideas for how to clean it. Start with a visual inspection. And it's going to plot the box. So shows me the data, very fast at least. And so I'm gonna zoom in on this data point right here. You see, there's this negative income data point, and in a previous stream, in the previous conversation that I'd had with it, it had actually automatically done a cleaning step, and when it did the cleaning step, it told me that I need to remove. It told me to investigate the negative income values. They might be data errors. And it told me to remove the negative income value. Now, I don't actually know anything about this data. So I have no idea whether it's possible to have negative income in the framework that they're using. As someone that works for myself, I've had years where I spent more than I made. And as a result, I could be said to have negative income. So again, it's another situation where without knowing a lot about the data in advance, I can't actually rely on this tool to make the decisions for me. And certain parts of this can't be solved by AI. Certain parts of this just must be solved by having context, whether the AI receives it programmatically or contextually through some kind of background operation, or whether I provide it. In this case, it didn't automatically go ahead and remove that, which is good, right? Because it might actually be a valid data point that I might want to use. But in other cases, it did. I do encourage you to jump into this tool and experiment with it if you have time and interest. Just wanted to show you some of the power and limitations of it right now and how to get access to it if it's something that's important for you. Thanks as always, and reach out if you have any more questions. Cheers.